3. And we're talking this morning with Clif and with Lois Rogers. The Rogers are members of the History and Archives Committee of Asbury First United Methodist Church, and they've been kind enough to tell us about their experiences, how they joined the church, and what the church was like over on East Avenue and Anson Place. Let's see, Clif, would you like to explain to us why you decided to join Asbury?
Well, we had come down here from Buffalo. We'd lived in Buffalo for some period of time during the Second World War, and we belonged to a church up there. And I think we were here a few months before we came here, and we discussed where we would join. And I remember that back in around 1940, there were three other boys and myself. We were going to school at Mechanics Institute, and one morning we decided to go to church, and somebody said, I know where there's a church down on East Avenue, let's go down there. So we did. We sat up in the balcony of the church that Sunday, and I told Lois, I said, let's go down and see that place again. So we did, and we joined right away. I guess that must have been about 1947.
46 or 47.
6 or 47.
And I know we already knew, you knew him from church. That was Bill Saley from when you went there before, from RIT, which was Mechanics Institute in those days.
That's right. He was in my class at RIT.
I guess maybe you may have contacted him when you got back here, but anyway, his wife called me one day, and at that time everybody was having children, babies, and invited me to a baby shower and for one of the members, and so we just naturally joined that class, which in those days was called 50-50 class, which has meant a lot to us down through the years. And I guess the class has eventually become pretty well known in our church, where their members have been in just about every phase of the church activity, from education of the children to counselors for young people, and all the way on through to the other social security concerns area, Storehouse and all that. So we found a lot of help and satisfaction in that class. And Clif can tell you about how some of the members, they made a nursery. There wasn't any nursery school.
Yes, in that
Anson Place
house next door to the church sanctuary. Our class was held upstairs, second floor, and there was a little room. It was bigger than a closet off that room, and I remember that Dick Clements headed a group of 2 or 3 men, and they took the wall out and put an I-beam up over the top to support the ceiling and enlarge the room, because we really needed more space. And I often think that must have been the start of the Monday morning work crew.
And then we donated, if anybody had an extra crib or any extra baby furniture, we donated it. And then, of course, other people in the church did after a while, too. But mainly that first nursery was for the children of the 50-plus class, because when we first went to Sunday school and Mr. Gifford was our teacher, lots of times we had no place for the children, so we'd bring them in. There'd be 1 or 2 babies crawling around on the floor while Mr. Gifford was giving his little talks, and or one of the parents would be holding a crying baby. So that helped a lot when some of the members of the class would take over the nursery while the rest were able to have a little peace and quiet. And,
I remember something else about that first day that we attended Asbury. We had a daughter, Marilyn, who was just a babe in arms then, and our son, David, was probably
2 years.
between 2 and 3 years old. And when we arrived at church, we were told where we could take the children. And we left them there while we attended. Did we go to church that day or just Sunday school?
I don't know.
Probably both. But I remember when we came back to get the children that when we walked in the room to get David, he was sitting on someone's lap and crying his eyes out. He had been abandoned. Tears were running down his cheeks. And the man who was holding him, I thought to myself, where have I seen him before? It's somebody that I used to know. And eventually I realized who it was. It was Clary Rugg. And now I'll tell you where I had met him. I was born and raised in this area, township of Victor, and we attended a Methodist church in Victor. And the Rugg family, originally from the Victor area. And Clarence and his brother and father and mother lived somewhere in Rochester. But on Sundays, sometimes they came out to Victor and they went to church in Victor. And I remember when I was probably a teenager and seeing him in somewhere in church, probably in Sunday school rooms down there in Victor. So the relationship between ourselves and the Ruggs has been rather outstanding for more than 50 years now. We keep track of each other pretty well.
They were members of the 50 plus class. Well, it now is called 50 plus class. And they were, because of his job, he was transferred away to Ohio and different places around, but they still come back, even though they live in Florida most of the time. They quite often manage to get back some of our special days and times. So they keep in touch with all of us. But we did talk about the early history of our class and the church, and I really liked that church very much. The layout of it, I remember going to the church services there, and Dr. Crosland, and the roundness of the church, you know, just like a half circle, and then the balcony, and we always thought it was real great, and I guess I was rather surprised when except for the fact of the space, we needed more space, that we were going to build a new church and education building. And it's true, we did sometimes get so involved in our social concerns area. At times, those days, we were talking about economics and bringing up our children and all kinds of things in our Sunday school class that I guess most normal classes didn't get to discuss that much. And we'd get all fired up in conversations, and several times we would go to a local place for coffee and finish the discussion rather than go to church. I always felt a little guilty when we did that because our children somebody was taking care of our children for us while we were out having coffee. But we really did get a lot out of it, and we knew that other couples were having the same problems with children and parents, their own parents and things as we were. And we always had very interesting classes and discussions, and also our parties that we had once a month. But the church has always been special in our lives because we felt it was a wonderful place to bring our children, for them to meet friends and get some of the values of life as well as ourselves. And we've had opportunities to have, I think, very great ministers. I've always thought the pastor parish committee that helped choose these fine ministers there have always been very sharp, and it's, I think we've always had very good leadership and opportunities in both church there and our new church, where we've had the beautiful sanctuary here too, and always thought the music and the choir and the organ and the atmosphere in this church was lovely, inspiring too.
I can relate a testament to this church. Probably around 1948 or 49, we made the acquaintance of a young couple who came here to this area from Illinois. He came here to go to work for Stromberg Carlson, and they lived in this area for about maybe 3 years. And since then, they have moved to Boston area, and then more recently to Baltimore area. He was a research engineer in electronics. And we have kept close contact with them. We see them at least once a year. In fact, I can remember one year we met with them 3 times. Either they were here or we were down in their area. And one time, Bob, their name was Thing, Bob and Ann Thing. And on one occasion, I was discussing Asbury with Bob, and he said that they had made more friends during the short time that they were in Asbury than they have made in all these years since in all of the other areas that they have lived in. And I thought that was worth mentioning.
Yeah. And others, and that makes our class sort of particularly wonderful, I think, too, because as people have moved away, they quite often generally keep in touch with 1 or 2 or 3 members of this church and class, and always remember the things that we have here, both in the class and in the church. And I think this church also has given us all opportunities to serve, and I think that means more to anybody in their church life if they have opportunities to help and work on some of the outreach programs that we certainly have quite a few of. And I think that's meaningful to a family to have that sort of activities. And here at least we get the opportunity to do that and grow along with the church and our friends. So actually I can't really picture life without our church and our church friends.
And there would be a group of 4 or 5 of us, I guess.
6 or 8.
Yeah, would walk up East Avenue up to where the White Tower was located.
Or another restaurant there.
Yeah. And we would tend to continue discussing the same subject that Giff had brought to class that day. And matter of fact, there was like a couple of times when Giff was with us.
Yeah, but we had mentioned that before.
Yeah.
That I felt guilty leaving the children for somebody else to take care of.
Yeah.
What about the storehouse? You mentioned the rugs, and I know the Dolly rug.
Well, this is a cousin.
Dolly Rugg.
Dolly and Jim Rugg, yeah.
They're cousins.
Well,
they're first cousins.
I think Joyce Clements and some of the other, probably from our class, maybe some other classes too. They first conceived the idea of the storehouse.
Well, I'm trying to think of a name.
In the early days.
She died, and she was one of the first ones, I can't think of her name.
I don't know either, but I know there's a plaque over in 1010 that
Yeah.
mentions all the ladies that were active in starting the Storehouse and getting it going. And there's been various ones, and of course including Dolly Rugg, who served at the head of it as Pepper Wolf is now, and plus these other ladies that I mentioned. And yeah, that was one of the big things.
I would be
too.
willing to say that it was, at the start, members of this class, 50-50 or 50 plus, that were first involved in the Storehouse.
Were they also involved in the other outreach project, the nursery school and the daycare?
Oh yes, as I mentioned before, they are members of our classes. Different ones are always, quite often they'd be missing Sunday school because they'd be teaching classes, or they'd be the counselors for the young people. And so, yes, I think people in our class have contributed quite a bit to all the outreach areas of the church. And then, of course, the late years, the maintenance crew, a lot of them are members of our class, and others too, but a nucleus, I think, from our 50-plus classes, it's called now.
Yeah, Cliff, you mentioned, I believe you are a member of the Monday morning crew.
Yeah.
What types of work do you do on that crew?
Well, we would do, somebody in that group would do electrical repair work and plumbing repair work and structural work. We have the most recent large project was the preparation of the second floor of 1010 for the bishop. And we put in some partitions and replaced doors, repaired floors, and painting, a lot of painting. We do a lot of painting. And if anyone is familiar with the storehouse area in the basement of this building here, 1050, that was probably our largest project that we've ever done. And that was a considerable amount of work. And all of it was done by that group of people, the Monday morning group. Some of those people worked not only Monday mornings, but they were here other mornings too.
Days.
Yeah. Dick Clements is one who has been has contributed probably more than most of the other individuals. I have contributed not much other than Monday mornings, but Dick has done a great deal. Another one who
Bob
is
Kennedy, too.
Bob Kennedy. In recent years, he's been here with us, and he's done a lot also.
What was involved in the renovations for the storehouse? What was the physical plant like before you went in there?
Well, if you can imagine a very large basement, which did consist of more than one room, several rooms with stone walls between the rooms, dark and dirty. Even the floor wasn't very good. A lot of the overhead piping had to be cleaned and painted or repaired. There were even some leaks in one area that had to be repaired. Lighting had to be installed. A lot of new lighting had to be installed. And a of painting, a great deal of painting was done. Some partitions were put up, doors were added. Even the outside stairway was redone. So there was an awful lot of work there.
I understand there was also a humidity problem that you overcame.
Yeah, an area like that is apt to be rather damp, especially in the summertime, and that would not be good for storage of clothes. So a humidifier is an air conditioning unit. And when you dry the air, that requires almost the same process as air conditioning. That's not a word that we like to use, but you can't very well humidify without using air conditioning equipment to do it with. And that was quite necessary, considering that we expected to store a lot of clothing in that area.
So,
We built our own home. The only part of it that we didn't do ourselves was my brother was a roofer. He put the roof shingles on, and I hired a plasterer to plaster the walls. But other than that, we did all of it ourselves. The electric wiring, the plumbing, the heating, every bit of it. So there was a period of time when we worked on that project Saturdays and Sundays. We didn't work during the week. So, you see, we weren't in church for a while.
we did manage generally in that time period, though, to get, like for instance, our daughter was quite active in the youth organization that met in the evening and on Sunday evenings, and we'd probably bring her in for her meeting, and they always had a little supper there. We did take our turn when it was our parents' turn to bring sandwiches for the young people's little Sunday night snack. We would do that, but quite often we'd drop her off for her meeting, and we'd go over on Culver Road where there's a laundromat. And since when we were working in our house and we were living in it when it was, well, just barely livable, and of course we had no washing machine or anything like that, so we'd bring our laundry in and go to the laundromat on Sunday night to wear laundry while Marilyn was at her church activities. And so then we'd pick her up and toot on home. But we tried to keep the children, if we could, in contact with the church, even though during those years, and we did go to some of the affairs, of course, but we really mostly worked on our house, and for about 3 years we were.
Yeah, that would be in the area of 1959, 60, maybe 61.
Yeah, it was getting pretty close to done in 61,
Yeah.
62. So then we got back into our stride then and tried to be a little more faithful.
So you missed the last year of Dr. Crosland, roughly,
Yes, probably.
and almost all of Dr. Turnipseed.
Yes. But although, well, of course, Reverend Steen was here after that, because we were still coming pretty faithfully then, because I know we bring our son into confirmation classes, and Reverend Steen was the minister then for the young people. So, and I believe we went to quite a few of the early morning family services, the 9 o'clock services that were in the church at that time too, because we always were pretty much morning people anyway. We get up early and then we have the time for other things during the day. We come to church and Sunday school early.
Do you still prefer the 9 o'clock service?
Yes, we do. We like to come into the early service, although we quite often do go to the 11 o'clock service for special things and the choir and so on. but mainly we attend the 9 o'clock service. Moved. He was always making some little gadget or other that would, and shelves and so on, that would make the storehouse even over in 1010 handier. And then of course when they did redo the storehouse to come down in the basement of this building, why he did an awful lot. And he was always not only in the building part, but he'd always take toys home to repair or fix up certain things that didn't work, like somebody donated maybe a clock, for instance, that wasn't just right. He'd take all these things home and work on them. And so they've both done lots and lots.
Both Jim and Dahlia
And
have done a tremendous
right.
amount for the storehouse.
Yeah.
That's true. And they did a lot with the young people too. They, in the early days, they were members of our class, and then they just said, well, there were so many things they wanted to work on and do, and in the Sunday school and in those hours when we met, that they sort of dropped out of the class, and they were so busy with the young people and all, and till really just late years. So I think they joined in another class in the last few years. Plus, we'll be having the 50th anniversary this year. We're planning quite a bit of activity for that. So, and there'll be people coming from out of town. Couples take part in it.
A number of the former members of the class are coming in.
Yes.
Yes.
And our big dinner is in May. And then we are planning a retreat in the fall. And even some people from out of town even thought they would like to attend that too. So we can do a story on our class maybe in a month or two for the display case.
As you've been doing quite a bit of work on maintaining the display case and changing it every month. Doing a tremendous job.
Well, we have lots of help on that too, especially Nancy with her signs. The case itself wouldn't be much without the attractive signs.
And that display case, of course, is here. It was purchased with money by a member of the 50-plus class in honor of her husband who has passed away.
Well, it was a memorial.
Memorial
For
Jim Estridge.
Jim Estridge.
Yeah. He also was a member of the Monday morning crew years back.
And he was treasurer of our class for many years too. So, and they've served a lot of time on different projects too.
Where does your class currently meet in the church?
It's in 1010, in the room that we, it was a long time ago, a dining room. It's a dining room and solarium there, 1010.
Has it always met in that location?
No, in our early days we were here.
Excepting for, there was a brief period of time when we met on the third floor of this building here, 1050, at the end of the building toward the street. That was a room that, I don't know what you would call it. It was a room that was, George Eastman used it for some particular purpose.
Study or something?
I don't know whether it was a study or what it was, but I know that the appearance of that room was something that had the hand of George Eastman on it. And then I think that we had to leave that because of the fire codes. We can't have things on that third floor because there's not sufficient way for people to get out in case of an emergency.
There are no fire exits
No.
Hasn't there been some discussion about bringing the third floor up to code so that it can be used?
Yes, there have, but I'm not really, I can't say to what extent those discussions have gone on.
Both Clif and Lois, for their memories of the church. You have both been truly active, vibrant members of the church, and I personally would like to thank you for everything that you have done to support this church and its ministry.